What's up, Rescue Squad? I would like to, I guess, make an addendum to a video that I made called "Not Liking Modern Games Doesn't Make Me a Misogynist," and explain myself a bit more. Because in that video, I was being very vague, and I was mainly talking about things that were the current discussion about a month ago. About a month or two ago. I don't know what it was, I forget. But in that video, first of all, it's not adequately explained what I was responding to. It's like, okay, what does this have to do with anything? Why would someone think I am a misogynist for not liking a modern game? Well, good question. If you're just the casual, normal viewer, you probably are not aware of this, but I feel like a lot of larger game companies have inadvertently trained a lot of people who are activists, who are like feminists or social justice activists or something, to be their free PR team. So the subject of that particular video, which I didn't want to mention because I figured it would be an evergreen topic and I wouldn't want to date the video by talking about a game that's, you know, someday not going to be new anymore and is going to be old. Like every game will. And basically, if you're wondering who I was responding to, it was people on Twitter. That's XWITTER. That's what I call it. I know it's not really something that was happening on YouTube. But after a new PS5 game in a promotional video, a promotional stream called State of Play, was announced, called God of War Laufey, which had a female protagonist and a rather mid-looking one when the game usually features male protagonists, or a male protagonist or something. People were a little disappointed, which they're allowed to be. And basically, the discussion for a few days after was a whole bunch of feminists who may or may not be gamers seeing this response and drawing the conclusion that anyone who didn't like the new AAA game were misogynists. And they are not only people who have never played as a female character before, which when it comes to my history with the games I played, that's LOL not true. And they thought that not only have the people critiquing it never played as a female character before, but they have never seen a woman in real life before, which is statistically impossible, which I really don't understand. I really don't understand the thought process there. And it seemed like they didn't really put a whole lot of thought into that argument because they didn't. And I was basically giving it thought that it doesn't deserve and exploring the idea and basically saying, well, what does that imply? Does that imply that, you know, misogyny has just never existed before and never been a thing until this video game that probably only a few million people out of 8 billion are going to buy? I mean, when you even look at the most popular video games of all time, when you look at something like Wii Sports, which sold in the tens of millions, I mean, that's not billions. So, if a game that's way less popular than that seems to be the sole criteria for whether or not someone is a misogynist, doesn't sell that well, only sells a few million, does that mean all the billions and billions of other people, does that mean they're all misogynists? And I was basically making a parody discussion on that. And another thing I was being kind of vague about is people in third world countries, poor people and people in third world countries. The comment that I made where it's like, well, what about people who can't afford the game or who will not have the game supported in their region at all? Because this game that I'm playing right now, Motor Toon 1994, this is the original Motor Toon game, and this game came out in Japan only. The Motor Toon that we got is actually the second game. So, you know, what if a game comes out that, like, represents people really well, but it only comes out in one country? It only comes out in one region. You know, so if, like, the game were to only come out in North America and it, like, represents people really well, I guess the rest of the entire world are bigots. I guess when people are immigrants and they come to America, we gotta like check them at the border and say, have you purchased this diverse game? If not, then you might be a bigot and we'll have to send you back. Like maybe that could be the immigration criteria. Maybe that might make some people care about not having illegal immigrants, because what if those illegal immigrants haven't played God of War Laufey and proved that they're not misogynists? Can't trust them around women. They might rape someone because a video game didn't teach them to be nice to women, because parents can't just do that now. So, you know, of course, I was making a joke and a parody with that statement. I was saying like, hey, people have different conditions, different monetary privileges, different standards of living, and some people just can't afford to be socially just. Social justice always seemed to be a privilege for the wealthy and well-off and comfortable, to me. Which is why they can afford to blow all this money on frippery and luxuries to prove that they're good people. So, another thing I mentioned is the game I was playing in the video. This isn't the game, but I was playing a different game called Cosmic Race. And that's a game that was reviewed by a magazine named Game Fan. And I don't really think they gave the game much of a fair shake. I feel like they just kind of played the first level and they pressed X, which they thought would make them accelerate if they held it down. But the X button in Cosmic Race actually makes you nosedive straight into the ground and you instantly lose. So I feel like a lot of people have reviewed Cosmic Race and have dissed the game entirely based on that. Based on their negative experience of not knowing how to play the game and, you know, playing it wrong. And in response to this, in response to having this horrible experience with Cosmic Race, Game Fan gave it a 0% score, and apparently that's the first 0% they had ever given at the time, and Cosmic Race was apparently just so horrible that Cosmic Race was apparently so horrible that, you know, they would have different terms for their various scores, where, like, each lower 10th percentile would be an increasingly worse word if it was under, like, 40% or something. And their 0% score was Cosmic Race. Like, that's a worse adjective than horrible or putrid or something. Like, Cosmic Race is just the worst, grossest, ugliest thing they can think of. And I played and beat Cosmic Race. I don't think it's that bad of a game. I do think the tracks kind of go on a little long. Like you saw in the video, in the 16 or so minutes I was playing the game, I could only complete 3 tracks, or the 15 minutes. And you know, I would say that the game kind of overstays its welcome in that department, but otherwise, it's a playable game that I think gets a bad rap. And in the game, I was playing as a female character, which I'm also playing as a female character in Motor Toon right now, to kind of demonstrate, you know, visually that I don't mind playing as female characters if the game is entertaining. And yes, female characters are not a recent invention in video games. They did exist for quite some time in these old games from the mid-90s. And before then, like, female video game characters that are in beloved games that players had no issue identifying with and making succeed in the game go back a long way. They're almost as old as male characters. And if you were a real gamer and you were educated on gaming history and you're not a Jenny-come-lately who, I don't know, just heard about them and found that these old games from decades ago were insufficiently current year for you and you had to cry misogyny and sexism, you would understand that. And I feel like I need to make this video to explain those things from that first video on not liking modern games not making me a misogynist, because that discussion of, like, representation and are customers bigots and do we need to force behaviors, that kind of culture war stuff is kind of old news now. Like, I don't know how long this guy's been working on this, but Never Knows Best, gaming YouTuber, recently made a video about Gamergate. And it's like, it's a 6-hour long video, which I have way too much of a life to watch a video on that old, beaten to death topic for 6 hours, which is why I hardly upload it all, because I'm busy with important real life stuff. And, it's like, not only is it a long video, but that's kind of an old discussion these days. Like, it's been supplanted. People were already tired of discussing it before this happened, but it's been supplanted by Sony's new decision that they unveiled and are probably most likely not walking back, even with all the internet kvetching and protesting in the world. To get rid of discs. And this kind of catapults a discussion that was brewing and is now the big new hot gaming controversy of the day, of the year, about game ownership. And as someone who is playing Motor Toon 1994, a PS1 game from, well, the stated year, 1994. It was a year one PlayStation 1 game from before the system even came out outside of Japan. You know, I'm happy that I can import this game and own my disc and still play this game even today with no background checks or online verification or accounts or updates or anything. And that makes it hassle-free and just as convenient as it's always been. And that's really nice for me as a gamer. And so I think that's way more important than discussions about, you know, how do we thought control people using video games into not being misogynists, which I'm just gonna say this out there, I'm just gonna throw this out there. I don't think trying to force behaviors has been working in the favor of the people who are trying to force them. I feel like it's had the opposite effect. I feel like trying to make games sensitive and condemning like decades-old games for not being current year enough. Like, first of all, talking about culture war stuff in 2026 is not very current year because the new discussion is the game ownership thing. And this video is unscripted, by the way. But, like, the game ownership thing, for any gamer, no matter who you are, is way, way more important. To me. Like, representation, I guess, if you can do it right without sacrificing fun, is a nice bonus. It's some nice frosting on the top, but it's not really going to matter if you can't own the game. You know, what if you do make a game with good representation that brings everyone together and ends racism, and it's not properly preserved because people can't own it? That's going to set you back all the progress you've made, all the hard work those developers did. And that's disgusting. So, that just explains my perspective on that video I made and why I super don't care. Before I didn't care about, you know, whether or not your fictional entertainment was sufficiently sensitive enough. Now I super don't care. Now that the discussion's changed over to game ownership. And not only that, but it looks to be something Sony is most likely not going to walk back anytime soon. And it is going to be hugely detrimental to their business and to the history and the medium of games, which I thought Sony was the company that cared about games being art. But I guess that's just when they can make all these fancy cutscenes, which we don't really care about. So, I kind of did want to talk about this again because the aftermath this has on, you know, future social justice games is, first of all, the biggest luxury. Games are a luxury product, and the biggest luxury in gaming is the games you want to buy the least. So, any game that's, you know, not the game you want to buy as much, that's not practically serving its purpose of being fun, that is the biggest luxury of them all, regardless of price. So add lack of ownership onto that, and you're throwing your money at nothing. You're throwing your money into the river, where it's going to be washed away by the current once the game is no longer current. So, you know, to all the people on social media, on websites like Twitter and websites like Blue Sky now, who want to call me a misogynist, for not buying a $70 luxury AAA game that I wasn't even interested in the previous games in that series for much the same reasons, because I'm not really a AAA gamer, I'm a niche gamer. Making me buy a copy I don't own is going to be an even bigger ask for people. That might negatively affect the sales and turn more people into misogynists that don't buy the current game. And I wonder if come 2028, the people who love to label you as a misogynist are going to take that into consideration. Or are they just going to ignore the facts and go, well, that's no big deal? You still need to buy the game anyway, you bigot. And I also mentioned other things in that video, like, all the other games where I've played as female characters, does the new one supersede it? And does that make it the most misogynistic game because it erases all the other female characters that previously existed in gaming? And, you know, if someone makes, like, I don't know, a wish fulfillment-y waifu simulator, but donates the proceeds to, like, I don't know, help women in third world countries who are suffering from real misogyny, that's far worse than people not buying a video game. Does that mean, is that a less misogynistic product than one with a current year ideological outlook that listens to, you know, all the activists who want everything to be mid and ugly and lecture heavy, that doesn't do that? Something to think about. So, that's going to be something to consider, something to think about. Had to concentrate there. I actually do want to beat this game before the video's over and get to the credits. I want to come first in this race, at the very least. So anyway, in case you watch that not liking modern games doesn't make me a misogynist video, and you thought I had good points but were wondering what I was yammering about when I brought up these unrelated random things, this video explains what I was on about. This video explains the specifics of the things I was referencing and who I was responding to, in case the content of that video seemed a little random. Nice. Oh, I got the running power up on the straightaway. So anyway, this game is Motor Toon 1994. It is a physically ownable game for the PS1 that will be worth more than any PS5 or PS6 game in the future due to having a disc and not having any always online DRM where they can just kill the game, which they should stop doing at some point in the future. It's a very short game with only 3 tracks in the main mode, which compared to the games that Polyphony currently make, you know, the Gran Turismo guys, 3 tracks is tiny. That's not even demo size for them anymore. It's microscopic for a game, but this was their proof of concept. And I have to congratulate them for making this game to really take me somewhere and making a game that, despite its lack of content, is still going to hold up really well and will still be playable long after Sony destroys its own video game business. We'll give it another 5 to 10 years from taking away people's ownership. You know, unless people are low standards enough to keep buying Sony even after they've figured out all of these new and inventive ways to not reciprocate back the love you have for them. Let's put it that way. Okay, bye.